This is a walkthrough of the 15-mark question for Cambridge iGCSE November 2023. Similarly to the at least other one of these that I've done for one of the other past paper questions, it's useful if you've got this pseudocode guide to hand just to help you write your pseudocode. So you could open it, you could either print it out or open it in another tab and just refer back to it. You will need to, if you're doing this for exam, you will need to remember all of these, but I'm pretty sure you already know a lot of them anyway, but it's handy just to have just as reference. So we've got a method that we can use to solve the 15-mark, I should just say mark, obviously a typo there, 15-mark question. So the first thing is read the question once completely. As I mentioned previously, if you're doing this in this exam, you've got 90 minutes and a lot of that time is thinking time. There's not so much to write apart from this particular question. So read it once completely before you do anything else. Pay attention to the instructions at the bottom. This is the same for every question, so this is your strategy to get started. They might change from exam to exam, but to just read those. So these bullet points here are what you're being marked on. You have to try and address each one of these, and that will hopefully get you safely into the middle mark band or top mark band. Okay, so you have to try and address each one, even if you're not 100% confident that you can get it to work, but they will allow you to have code that doesn't necessarily work or is entirely logical, as long as they can understand what you're trying to do. As you tackle each part, the information at the top will give you more clarity on what you need to do. So as you're working through these bullet points, you'll need to refer up here to get information that you need to answer the question. And as I said previously, it'll be helpful as you're doing each of the bullet points here just to maybe do some little annotations as what you have to do. So this one, I have to input customer name, room length and room width. So I've got 3 things to input this, so I need to make sure that I do that to at least pick up the marks of that particular bullet point. Once you've done those annotations, you can try just writing up your annotations in pseudocode. So let's have a look. So there's 9 parts to this one. Let's see if we can get this done in under 20 minutes. Right, so looking at the bottom, first of all, similar to the other recent one, you do not need to declare any arrays or variables. So straight off, we're not going to do that. All inputs and outputs must contain suitable messages. So again, we'll just make sure if we're inputting in, if the user has to input something, we'll tell them what they need to do. If we're outputting something, we'll make sure that it relates to whatever we're outputting. And same as the previous one, you will need to initialize the wood type and price array first. So this is nice easy marked, so look for that first. Once you've read it through once, look for that. If it asks you to do that, do it straight away. Now we need to look at the top part of the information to find out what exactly is in the wood type and price array. So this is the information we need here. So wood type and price array are these 2 one-dimensional arrays. So wood type is this one and price will be this one. You have to use these names exactly or you will lose marks. So in the mark scheme we'll say that, quotations, customers, wood type, price, is there any? I think that's it. You have to use those, but for anything else you can make up your own name and you will gain marks for that, for making up your other names, as long as they are suitable identifiers or suitable names. Right, so let's go ahead and declare these. So wood type 1 is going to be laminate. So wood type element 1, assign that the string laminate. So why don't you pause the video now, see if you can write out the rest of the data that's going to be stored in those 2 arrays. Okay, so wood type 2 is pine, wood type 3 is oak. So there's only 3 things, 3 elements, and then same for the price per square meter. We've got those. Notice those are real numbers and these are strings for the wood type. Okay, now also, remember this information is important, you must use pseudocode or program code and add comments to explain how your code works. So I'm using pseudocode, I haven't added a comment yet, so I'm going to comment everything. And if you're a bit stuck what to write for your comment, then just rewrite the bullet point in your own words. Okay, and these are the bullet points that we're going to be addressing. But initially, we've just initialized the wood type array. We've initialized, populate the wood type and price arrays with wood types and prices, or initialize the wood type and price arrays with wood type, or however you want to write it. So that's our first bit done. Let's move on. So please always look out for this straight away, see if that's on there. Right, part 2. Input a new customer's name, room length and room width. So I'm just going to do some little annotations on there just so I don't forget what to do. Input, input, input. So that's nice and straightforward. So we just need to output a message, input a sensible variable name for customer name, and we'll do the same for room length, and we'll do the same for room width. I think in the rest of the code I've actually written room width with width. I thought I changed more, but I've missed this one. But anyway, so we've got suitable message and we've got reasonably named identifiers. So we're picking up some nice marks there. There's nothing else to do for this particular section apart from hopefully some of you are saying to your screen you haven't put a comment on, and you're absolutely right. So let's do that. Input customer name, room length and room width using suitable variable names or identifiers, however you want to put that. Okay, so that'll do. So let's move on to the next part. Check that each measurement is valid. So there is a video on validation methods and verification methods, which I'll put in the description for this video if you haven't already seen it. So you can see I've made some space ready to put the validation in. So we don't need to validate the customer's name, but we could do a presence check, but it only asks us to check that each measurement is valid. So I'm just going to validate these two here. So the first measurement, room length. So if we look in the question, I'm hoping the next click will take us up here. So this is where we are looking to validate a measurement between 1.5 and 10 meters inclusive. So that's what we need to accept. So we accept 1.5 up to we accept 10. So if what we say is while the measurement is less than 1.5 or the measurement is greater than 10, then it's wrong. It needs to be re-entered. So validate the room length. Let's pop a comment on while it's less than 1.5 or greater than 10, the user must re-enter. So we just want to write that statement up as a while loop. Okay, so while room length less than 1.5 or room length greater than 10 do, what do we want them to do? Well, we want them to enter it again. So I've got an error message there. Maybe you could write a better error message than that, and then we'll input the room length variable again and end our while loop. So this is going to keep going around and around and around until they enter a value that is 1.5 up to 10. And it's exactly the same validation for the room width, except we are asking for the room width to be re-entered. So again, we've got a suitable error message. They enter the room width, we validate it. If they don't enter a value that's that's between 1.5 and 10, then they keep going around and around and around. Okay, so as I say, if you need a little practice, there's a link in the description of this video which will help you with that. Right, so solution part 4 of 9. Okay, calculate the area of the room by multiplying together the length of the room and the width of the room. Well, that is nice and straightforward. So even if you let's say you hadn't managed to do the bit before that, you could literally just make up two variables, length of room, width of room, and multiply them together and call it area. But because we have the room width and the room length, or room len, we can, that's processing. So I've got a comment, what we're doing, and I'm saying area. Maybe I should call it room area perhaps, or area room, probably. Assign that room length times room width, that gives us the area. So I think we're done with that one. So part 5, input the choice of wood and find its price per square meter. So to input the choice of wood, there's a couple of options. You could ask them to type in the type of wood that they want and then search the wood type array for it and find a match, but then you're relying on people being able to spell laminate, etc., and not make a mistake. What we can do is we can just ask them to type in 1, 2, 3, because 1 is laminate, 2 is pine, 3 is oak. So we can pop, that's another input and some processing. That's the information that we need. So what we can do is we can ask them to enter a range between 1 and 3, and we can validate that to make sure they enter between 1 and 3. It wouldn't matter if you didn't. It doesn't ask you to do the validation there, but it's probably good practice to do it. So enter wood choice, input wood choice. I probably should say enter 1 for laminate, 2 for pine, 3 for oak on the screen. So that probably doesn't count as a suitable output message there. But this will validate that. So while wood choice is less than 1 or wood choice is greater than 3, it's wrong. So they're going to have to enter it again, and they'll be stuck in this while loop. So these while loops are really handy, and it's more or less copy and paste each time and just changing the values and the messages and the variable that's being re-entered. So good to practice. Again, that video will be in the description of this one to help you with validation. Okay, so the other thing we need to do, there's 2 points to this, is find its price per square meter. So let's say the enter 1, which is laminate. So as long as we have the 1 there, we know that it's laminate. The price per square meter is position 1 of the price array. Yeah, the price array is storing these. We set it up at the start. So all we need to do is we just need to create a variable and assign it the value at position 1 of the price array. So something like that. Price per square meter, assign that price wood choice. So if they just typed in 1, price 1 is £29.99. So we're going to assign that to price per square meter. Again, there are other ways that you could do that, and you might think of something else in the exam, and great, just do it. So we're just trying to address each of these bullet points. Okay, right, okay, we're going pretty well, 10 minutes, more quicker than the other one. Calculate the price of the wood needed. Okay, so the price of the wood needed is going to be the area of the room multiplied, which is in square meters, multiplied by the price per square meter. Okay, so we just need to multiply these two values together. So this is a nice straightforward bit of processing here. So calculate the price of the wood needed, which will be the room area multiplied by the price per square meter. As the cost is money, it'll need to be rounded to 2 decimal places. So it doesn't say that. Or it might actually say it. Does it say it up here? Yeah. So the price of the wood required in dollars to 2 decimal places. Okay, so it does say it up here. Okay, so cost is going to be area times price per square meter. So the area of the room times the price per square meter that we just worked out. And I'm going to assign cost rounded to 2 decimal places. So this is, if you look at the pseudocode guide, this is the method that they use. This is the Cambridge's method. If you do it a different way, it shouldn't really matter too much, as long as it's clear what you're doing. And if you put a comment here, if you're not sure what you're doing when you're rounding it, but you think, okay, this is rounding it 2 decimal places, but this might be my way, that's fine, as long as you're consistent every time you do it that way. But in your comment, you're helping the examiner know what you're doing. So these comments are worth their weight in gold if they had any weight and they were heavy. Right. Okay, so let's look at the next point. Store all the data in the relevant array. Okay, so the data is going to be stored in the quotations array, because that's storing the customer's quotation, and the array is a 2-dimensional array. So again, there's an example of a 2-dimensional array in the last one. So it's a 2-dimensional array. So let's have a look at that. So the index of any customer's data is the same in both arrays. So whatever customer you're on, the position will be the same. So store the data in the quotations array using the customer number. Now, before we just go and look ahead at how we do that, let's just see what that array will actually look like. So here's the quotations array, and it's a 2-dimensional array. And a 2-dimensional array is basically an array that stores separate arrays. So this is the first one, and this will be the quote for the first customer. And in there, we've got quotations, customer number. So we're going to need the customer number, and I'll show you how we're going to get that in a second. So the customer number, position 1, which is this element here, element 1 of this subarray is going to be the room length. So customer number, again, let's assume it's customer 1, which is, we're looking in this subarray here. Position 2 is the room width. Position 3 is the area. Position 4 is the wood choice. And position 5, or element 5, is the cost, which is the area times the price per square meter. So that's the quotation details for customer 1. We're going to need this to loop around, and we'll see how we do that in a second. And the next time, the customer number will be 2. So customer number here, you substitute that with 2, which hopefully if I click again, yeah, it's going to come around to the next one, and it will be this. So customer number 2, so this is 2, position 1 is that. Customer position 2, again, these are all position 2. That's the first number in this statement here. But position 1 in that array is this one. Position 2 in this subarray is this one. Position 3 in this subarray is this one. Position 4 is this one, position 5 is this one, and then the same thing would repeat for customer 3, 4, 5. Now, if you think that if you have trouble getting this to work, we're going to see how it works in a second, then just try and just do something like this. So you're showing that you recognize that you have to assign each of these different variables into the quotations array. Let's have a look how you do that. So to store the quotation data, we need to have the customer number. This will be the first element in the 2D array. So customer number 1, customer number 2. There can be 100 customers, so it makes sense to start at 1 and work through to 100. So as we know there are 100 customers, the first option is to use a for loop. So let's see how we do that as an overall picture. To store the quotation data, we need to have the customer number. This will be the first element in the 2D array quotations. That's what we just looked at. So element 1 is customer 1, and so we've got element 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. This is element 2, element 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, and so on. There can be 100 customers, so this makes sense to start at 1 and work through to 100. As I said, there are a couple of options. The mark scheme uses a while loop to do it, which we'll talk about at the end if I remember, but I've decided to use the for loop simply because it makes more sense to me. So I'm going to use this more straightforward option, the for loop. So there's our initial setting up of the arrays. We set up a for loop to loop 100 times, which is very straightforward, and we call it customer num. Then this is representing all the rest of your code indented. Now if you can't do that, let's say you've written it all and you think, oh, how can I indent it? I've already written it. Simply just write this a bit to the left, doesn't matter. And then this is where we're now assigning customer number, which will start at 1, position 1, is going to be the room length, and then so on and so forth. Once we've assigned it, we go next customer number, the whole thing goes back to the start again, and then we process it, and customer number is now 2, so it's 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, that's the next one. Next customer number, 3. Go around again, and then it'll be 3, 1, 3, 2, 3. So we can do all 100 customers. So I'm pretty happy with that. Right, part 7 and 9. This is probably going to be over 20 minutes, unfortunately. But again, if you stuck this far, well done. Store the data in a relevant array. So this is what we just did. Except what we haven't done here is make sure that we've addressed these points. Make sure the data is rounded as instructed. Okay, so I wanted to separate the two parts so we try and get our head around the array part first. So this time the change is I'm just taking, so it's room length, but I'm rounding it to 1 decimal place because it tells me here the width of the room to 1 decimal place, area is to the whole number, so it's just rounded to 0. Choice of wood is already a whole number because we just entered an integer and we validated that. And then cost, we actually have already rounded it, so it might be worth putting that in the comment here just in case the person marking it missed that you've already done it. Okay, or just round it again. Right, so output the customer's quotation. So the customer's quotation is going to be, we can use the quotations array. We know the customer number because we'll be on the correct customer at that point, and we're just basically outputting these things. So again, you could just output them if you're having a little bit of trouble getting it all to work. Output customer name, output chose word choice because we need to output the choice of word. Again, you could write a little bit more if you want. We output the name, we output the choice of word, output the calculated price of the word required. So the calculated price is cost. Output total cost of wood, comma, cost. Okay, it's a bit brief, you could write a bit more, but it'll do. We've done what they asked us to do, and we've used sort of suitable output messages as well. So I'm pretty happy with that. Continue to the next customer, which we've addressed here with next customer. So our next the loop's going to go around again, basically. Okay, so we're almost into 20 minutes, but we've done pretty well. All right, let's have a look at the mark scheme for that. So, okay, 4 to 6. Some programming techniques used are appropriate to the problem. So that's pretty good. More than one technique seen applied to the scenario. Check the techniques needed. So we've got some techniques here: selection, iteration, counting, totaling, input, output. Any use of. So this is what I was talking about earlier. If you've done the bullet points separately because you weren't sure how to get them all within the program, or some of them are separate, any use. So if you've tried to use some of these, and we have, input, output, yeah, selection, iteration, repeat, doing a total. So I'm pretty happy with there, or up here probably. But some data structures chosen are appropriate. So make sure you use the correct names for the ones they give you in the question, and the rest of them use appropriate names to store them. So yeah, we're pretty good there. So get solidly in this mark band, and then you hopefully move up into the top mark band. Again, this one here, program seen with some relevant comments. That's why comments are so important. The program's been fully commented. You're starting to pick up points up here. Majority of the identifiers appropriately named. So if you call everything you use as an identifier or a name something that's very suitable and relevant, you're in here at least, or most likely you're going to be up here. Yeah, suitable identifiers, names meaningful to the purpose, have been used throughout. How easy is that? These two up in 5 or 6. The solution contains parts that may be illogical. So this is where perhaps you've tried to solve the bullet points separately, but in doing so, you're not costing yourself too many marks. You're still in this middle mark band. The solution contains parts that are inaccurate. So you're allowed to put some errors, some logic errors, some things that do things in the wrong order. Okay, and then the solution attempts to meet most of the requirements. So that's why it's so important to try and address each of those bullet points. So if you're in the middle mark band, so we got up to 4 here and up to 6 here, that's 10 out of the 15 marks. That's not bad at all. Okay, if you made it this far, well done. Thank you very much, and good luck.